in deep sleep states. Again, everything changes in dream. In the dream, not only that, the things that manifest are different from our waking objects. Even me, the subject, is different. If you ever had a nightmare, in the waking state, you would not be scared of that thing. You wouldn't even believe it. I had nightmares. And in the waking state, I wouldn't believe the existence of such creatures. In the dream, where is my knowledge? Where is my philosophy? Why am I scared of these ghoulish dark shadows? I am a different person. I don't know, I used to fly a lot in my dream. I don't know if you had those dreams. I talk about those a lot. I used to have those dreams a lot. And when I was young, and I'm like flying all night in my dream, and I couldn't even believe when I wake up that I couldn't fly anymore. They used to be so real, particularly if you are a kid, dreams look so real, and then I wake up, and how can I not fly now? I was flying then. How is the same subject convinced of himself that he can fly in the dream? Zhuangzi's example of a butterfly, in China. He wakes up after a dream of seeing himself a butterfly. He asks his minister, am I the butterfly dreaming a king, or was I a king dreaming a butterfly? So the subject, my point being, our waking subject, whoever you think you are now, appears to be so real. In the dream, there is another subject that appears as real, as this subject for that time. And when I'm not even conscious of my ego in the dreamless state, I wake up, I didn't even dream anything. That's yet another state of my expression, my mode of being. So what the Shakta philosophy is suggesting is, rather than saying, what I experience now myself is also illusion, and what I dreamt myself is also not real, and all of those states, and as me and as the objects, they were all not real. What it is saying is, these all modes are embedded within my being. My pure being has the power to express the infinitude, to become many. In the dream, I become the dream subject and dream object. That is the power within me, Shakti. This ego is also the power within me. That is what is constituting and maintaining this ego. People sometimes have trouble managing their ego, suffering from PTSD, suffering from schizophrenia, suffering from personality disorder. Who is creating a different personality now goes to the doctor and says those other persons are not real, so you have to stop believing yourself to be those persons. So he tries to believe this only person in his waking state as real, but cannot succeed. Because what we are telling him is there is one of those expressions that is real and other of his own expressions unreal. What would be most appropriate to tell him at that state is, you are capable of creating so many altered subjective states. Why can't you just channel on whichever the particular subject you want to create of yourself? A child creates his subjectivity, his ego. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a leader, not like the ones we have, hopefully. And then engineer or something like that. And that ego materializes, becomes reality one time. And then he convinces himself that I am a poet, I'm a philosopher, I'm an engineer. If someone says, okay, can you join the army? No, I would not. If you tell that same child you have to join the army, since childhood, buy a bunch of guns, toys, and things, he grows up with that conviction, and when he comes to the age, he goes to the army. His ego is constituted that way. This is the power. The power within that, what is Shiva is beneath all these subjective and objective constructions. Not like these constructions are false, but these constructions are one and the same expression of the hidden, intrinsic, inherent powers of this singular being. What is this Shakti? What does this Shakti want? How can we ever satisfy this Shakti, which is a tough job if you are a householder? The only and the ultimate project of Shakti is freedom. Swatantra. No matter how tyrannic cultures we create, the intrinsic, inherent programming, teleology behind creation is such that individuals look for their own distinctive identities. Try to explore freedom in the most impossible places, in most impossible situations. I've shared with you my experience of going for a hike in snow, and I just can never forget that particular imagery of a tiny plant, one pine tree trying to emerge. There's just a bunch of snow, then it had somehow cracked a tiny piece of rock and then was just coming out of solid rock everywhere, just a rock, and somehow managed to find a tiny crack, and in there is this pup enduring the snow. This is not about we, the evolved, educated humans, looking for more freedom. This is the programming of creation that the foundational consciousness is constantly exploring to actualize its embedded freedom within. And this freedom is discovered through diversity. Being diversity does not contradict the ground, does not negate the ground, because the ground wants us to actualize our differences. Actually, when we forget these underlying premises of the ground seeking its own diversification, we suffer. Physically, sociologically, mentally, we suffer by not accepting the ground that is seeking, that is exploring to experience diversity, multitude, freedom. This is one side of the programming. Once we are fully capable of seeing this one and the same principle expressed through the multitudes of images and thoughts and words and meanings, it has the next project to recognize inherent oneness. Just like it is cosmically rushing away from every single thing, from this galactic core, every solar system is being hauled out, and every electron spinning wants to have a fraction of it radiate, in a sense escape and go towards chaos. Even within the conscious horizon, whatever comes to our mind wants to escape in the psychological level, in the emotional level the same way. Once we acknowledge how this project of diversification is working, this allows us to see inherent and intrinsic oneness that is weaving every single bead of the phonemes or the matter or the particle as a single being of Shiva, Shiva consciousness. The energies that make it manifold, that express first in the form of freedom, swatantrya, expresses itself in the second stage with an ardent will, intrinsic inherent desire to manifest in sequence, to follow sequentiality. To discover sequentiality, we constitute time and space. There is neither temporal consciousness nor spatial consciousness when there is this absolute oneness. But this freedom is expressed and actualized in time and space. That is where it differs from a sort of non-dualism where freedom is actualized in negation of time and space. This freedom is actualized in our modes of being. Our modes of being are expressed and discovered in time and space. And what happens when it has this desire to express out, its will is its body. Matter is the very will of the divine, that is what you are. Just like our motor organs, our physical body is intrinsically linked to our willpower, power of consciousness. The same way material objects out in the world are inherently connected or woven within the fabric of the cosmic consciousness that weaves all our minds into one. Some said this in a graphic metaphor of Bhameshwari means the mother who vomits, who throws out everything, emitting. And then that same mother is also called Kala Sankarshini. Kala means time, Sankarshini means who swallows up or who squeezes in. These twofold energies of Shiva in the form of Bhameshwari or emitting everything out, throwing everything out, and pulling everything within, including time. Space doesn't even matter, because space is pulled in when the time is pulled in. Is the play of Kali. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a great devotee of Kali. To the extent that he would not feel himself different from Kali. The order you are in is a great lineage of Kali worshippers. This Mother Divine, as I expressed in multiple forms, is called mantra. Mantra also is a sonic vibration, because the topic today is vibration. Mantras, phonemes, speeds, is a third type of vibration. Third in the sense, one is the physical vibration in the atomic, cosmic level, and the mental, emotional turmoil, also pulsation, vibration of thoughts. And the third is the sonic sound, the vibration of the sound. This is not actually the third. This is the middle. There is this pure material world merely comprised of waves. They're just waves. And there is this consciousness constantly manifesting itself in images, thoughts, words, thinking machine. In between is the sound. This is also the same pulsation, but why this is in between is this select sonic vibration allow us to liberate from our pure physicality, pure expression in the body, in the form, in the material object, in the mass, and also to purify, to refine thoughts, consciousness, and actually tad akramya balam mantra sarvagya balasalina pravartante adhikaraya chiradeva dehina. That's one of the verses here, that by these mantras, these sonic vibration, having penetrated into your being, your ego, lift you up from this externalized gross physicality and transform to Shiva consciousness, enable you to experience this center of gravity, Shiva, that is all the Shaktis surrounding it. What is Shiva and Shakti? Mostly we think of mother and father. That's a devotional way to look at it. The real thing is Shiva is a name for when all the Shaktis are distilled and are in a central circular form of a single gravity. I don't know if you have done beekeeping. One beekeeper told me, and I don't know whether it is even true, but what he said is, I always thought that there is this queen bee and then she creates every working and male bees. That part I knew. But what he said is, when the queen is dead, all these working bees can create their queen. If that is a real thing in the world, that is what Shiva and Shakti is. Shiva is that type of queen center construed, not like there's a real out thing, they're separated from Shaktis, but for Shaktis to maintain their harmony, a center of gravity appears, manifests itself. There is no possibility of disintegrating Shiva and Shakti, separating Shiva and Shakti. It is one and the same being. And this Shiva and Shakti is expressed in the phonemes, in the form of the consonants as the feminine and the vowels as the masculine. It's just a sort of analysis, a metaphor to understand the energies that are floating out in circling and the energies that's maintaining the gravity. 9 nights is a really powerful time if you are interested in sadhana, to reflect, to retrospect, to look within. And this is also the time for the cosmic events are related always in our physical events, a seasonal change, things happening, the fall, leaves are changing, everything. Our body is also changing. For us to reflect back and relate to the actual physical time and move in within to the divine manifestation expressed in time. We need to respect time in the sense that the divine manifestation of Kali, that's what I mean by time, because why is she called Kali? Kala has a relationship with time. Kala also means time. The other side is very difficult even for me to acknowledge because Kala also means death. And this is also the time for us to deal with separation and let go of the things that are gone for good, which is something not pleasant, and I should not even talk about because it's not fun. What I mean by not fun is, I told you last, my mother died and I don't want to think about it. We like to constantly put in the back burner and pile up some of these memories that are hard to encounter. Kali also is therefore the power of the shadow. The shadow is not somebody else's shadow. The shadow is my own being that I am not willing to encounter, that I would rather not see. The side of me that freaks me out, the side of me I would rather not acknowledge. To live with Kali is to rejoice in the cremation ground that is our everyday life. That's a very powerful metaphor, because in our everyday life, events happen. We separate from our loved ones, and we separate from our own loved ego, my own being that has been negated from the rest of the world. The world we have created, not God. We are the gods to create the world of our desire. The world we have created is the world full of battles. You read the Durga, she is this power when men are helpless. Maybe I sometimes like to believe that this idea is more easy for women to experience than me being a man, but other times I feel like the way this power has been denied for so long that maybe sometimes we are not even be willing to accept that divinity within, the power that is within, the light that is within us. We can refabricate and reconstitute reality of our liking. freedom is our fundamental being, and it is not for someone to take away from us. Yes, time has come, humanity has seen those days of darkness, but I'm talking about the teleology of the mega creation. Everything, every atom is eventually going to come to life. I'll just give you a small snippet from Paul Brunton's Legend of India. My teacher, Brajwala Dwivedi, and another teacher, Hemendra Chakrabarti, both studied from Gopinath Kaviraj. Gopinath Kaviraj was a great sadhaka in Benares, and he got the training from Vishuddhananda. So in this Brunton's account, he looks around, goes through, sees miracles, all these yogis and gimmicks and tricks and magic and everything, and then I'm not happy about it. All these cities, not impressed, not impressed. He's seeking, as a journalist, he wants to find something little thrilling. He goes to Vishuddhananda, and is just now sitting out, and then he gives a mat, like for people coming, and he sits in a mat. What do you want? As a yogi, I have heard so much about India and the philosophy and faith and everything, but I'm just going back, and I don't think that this is all, most of these things are like magic and things, I'm not much impressed. But if you want to tell me anything about your experience and your philosophy, I would be most impressed. What do you want to know? So in this conversation, at one point, Vishuddhananda asked, just pick up whatever in front of you. It's just floor. They were sitting in India, like on a mat, and he just finds one little pebble. He picks that up in his hand and opened it. There's a tiny beetle crawling instead of the pebble. What is this magic? No, I did no magic there. It was already in the project to become an insect and eventually come to human life to experience its divinity. I just triggered the process, couple million years, that's it. Let us say, we can be skeptical, but let's say hypothetically, only as an example for making the case of philosophy, that every particle is already conscious. There is nothing that is deprived of consciousness or intrinsic inherent subjectivity that lacks the being of Shiva, which is a constellation of Shaktis. We are free to experience it. The book is not. You know how this book experiences its Shiva nature? By projecting it to me, and when I experience this book and I experience its unity with me, even the book becomes Shiva. So this is all I would like to share right now, but I would welcome most if you have any questions.
At this point, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and a microphone will be given to you, and just speak into the microphone.
I had many questions while you were talking. Without being too elaborate, questions about location. I was very struck when you said, you're talking about unity expressed through diversity. The mother is diversity, the mother is expressing herself. See, in my experience, I experience myself subjectively, but I can't. That chair does not have a sense of itself subjectively. It's part of my subjective experience. And in that sense, it doesn't really have an independent reality. But in any case, even in my experience, that doesn't, it's not aware of me in the way that I am aware of it, or according to what you're saying. The other questions I was thinking about is the role of desire. And then you answered it very beautifully when you said it's a fundamental property, we'll call it that, of the mother to be free, to want to express itself through diversity, to multiply itself infinitely. And you brought up that idea that even a single object, from different perspectives of different beings, it's not a single object. It expresses itself infinitely through different kinds of consciousnesses. Okay? That last one you just brought up, that point, was wonderfully strange and complex. You brought up the notion of cosmic evolution, which I've heard all the ways the people talk about it. But you talked about the book itself is not conscious of itself. Now, I'm putting the words in your mouth. In that sense, Siva, it isn't conscious of itself as Siva yet. It experiences its being through me. My conceptualization of something called a book, in my subjective experience, is what it allows to exist as Siva. You're saying, and then you link that somehow that has something to do with the evolution of a book towards eventual self-awareness. So this is a very complicated thing, but it was a very complicated talk you gave. I wanted to hear more about what is self-consciousness, self-awareness. If everything is consciousness, but you're saying that in my subjective experience of consciousness, apparently this thing is not self-aware. But this subjective experience here is self-aware. This is a location in the mother, which is experiences self-awareness. So I'm asking, you started out with this question, how can this and this be the same expression of oneness? But self-awareness exists in this location, but not in other locations.
That's thank you.
No,
You also
it was an amazingly complicated talk.
thank you. Thank you. You summarized a bit. Thanks for that too. But what I mean here is the way I have felt it is. Let's start talking about my ego, or not like ego arrogance type. What I mean is me, the core of my being, I amness. If somebody knocks me, touches me, pushes me, I say, don't touch me. My ego extends then to my body. If you come with a pickaxe and start digging a hole on the wall of my house, it hurts me. Why shall it hurt me? I'm not the one you are digging.